Hey everybody, welcome to another live. We're again trying to get back into it. I always say that. I always say that I'm trying to get back into it. You know, it is what it is. I'm 36. I'm married with a kid. Look, you get what you can get out of me. Though I remember talking to Adrian, who used to be one of the people on our podcast recently. He and I were talking about it because he wants to do some streaming, and he's always writing too. And I said, you know, I'm writing more on the website hellofawaytodie.com. I'm doing more stuff there. It's easier for me to write than it is for me to stream because like streaming requires me to be 100% present here, talking to you, interacting, doing a thing. I can't, be doing something. I can't be on my phone. Can't be petting the dog, hanging out with anybody because I got to be here. I got to, so it's as the fucking millennial that I am that's constantly in 700 different directions, writing because I'm always writing inside of my head, and then I write a little bit actually, and then anyway, look, I'm streaming right now. We're streaming today. We're talking about stuff. I know you guys cannot wait to hear another dipshit Midwest white guy talk about Iran. Guess what? You're going to get that fucking anyway because that's exactly what we do. If you really want two dipshit Midwest white dudes talking about Iran, you should listen to our latest podcast with me and Nate. Now, we recorded that on Monday. Yeah, Monday morning, excuse me. Yeah, no frog in my throat all day until I start streaming. So Monday, we recorded this. It came out today. We talk about at the time, the very recent assassination of General Soleimani. In the Iranian general in Iraq, leave it to America to bomb its own shit to get a guy. So what's happened since then? Iran's flung some shit back again at Iraq. Got fucking Iraq, man, can't catch a break. But the 80s Iran-Iraq war. I'm sure Iran doesn't really give that much of a fuck about it. So there's been a lot of back and forth, and there's been a lot of like fucking gotcha shit that keeps happening with the right wingers, right? Where they're like, oh well, Soleimani was a terrorist, right? You got to call him a terrorist because he was a terrorist. But even like our own generals, I think there was something that I was watching recently. One of our generals, not Mattis, but one of our like current or recent generals. Was talking about Soleimani, who is like, he's not evil. I mean, he's no more evil than any other general. He was just a dude who was in charge of a lot of things, and as our American general said, he believed in his country. He believed in a stronger and better Iran. Isn't that what every general fucking goes for and wishes for? I mean, the thing is that as soon as you start like conceding some kind of like, well, I guess, like Warren did the whole like, oh, I guess he is a terror. Like, I mean, and I'm not going to pick on Warren. That's not fair because like fucking every spineless liberal has, done the same thing as like, well, I don't want to say that he's not a terrorist. He's not. He's a terrorist doesn't have a nation state, first off. He's, if anything, you can call him an enemy combatant, which you really can't because we're not at war with Iran. No matter how much your racist Facebook uncle might say in all the minion memes that he posts up on in the family Facebook group. That's not happening. We absolutely should not have assassinated General Soleimani, not because he was a good or bad guy, because I mean we fucking toeing the line on stepping into the brink. We are lucky, I think. Like people want to think that like we're the rash actors, right? And we are, no doubt. We attack Iran, we attack this general in Iraq. And then they fire back, right? They shot some missiles, hit a base in Iraq, an Iraqi base. Didn't kill anybody, no casualties or anything like that. And everybody gets to pat it themselves on the back and say job well done and go into their separate corners. And then we flirt with disaster later on down the line. Look, maybe, but also like it's incredible to watch the juxtaposition of Iran made these very coordinated attacks to not cause any casualties whatsoever on an Iraqi base that was, miles and miles away from the launch pads. To also, they accidentally shot down one of their own fucking airplanes. Look, decisions were made, things happened. We are all very lucky that everybody's ego seems to be, sated, and everybody again went back to their own corners. I'm not sure what's there's a lot of talk about World War III. Personally, my argument would be that we're already kind of in the middle of it, have been for a long time. Afghanistan has had multiple other nations in it since the War on Terror, and that's been going on for 18 years, and there's still plenty of other countries that are involved with that. But also, the French in Mali, there's, we're in Kenya. We just had a soldier die in Kenya. There already is, people think that World War III is going to be some nuke on nuke action, which is ridiculous because everybody nuclear weapons is that I don't know, it's deterrence in a way. I mean, it's deterrence against America fucking with you. If you have a nuke, America would, is more willing to be your friend than anything else. But also it's, everybody knows whoever shoots the first one is going to be the real asshole. Like a real asshole if you shoot a nuke first. So nobody wants to be that first one. Now, that's not good. There should be no nukes. We should have no bombs that do what nuclear bombs do. But, if you got to have a world with them, I suppose the one that we have now is slowly teetering on a razor's edge at a perfect balance. So hooray. But, I mean, the next world war is not going to be tank to tank, jet to jet. It's going to be exactly what we see right now. It's going to be a lot of proxy stuff. It's going to be a lot of pumping money into war machines like we do in America. $2 trillion into the American war machine. It's going to be cyber attacks. It's going to be what we see now, botnet attacks that happen that are melting the brains of every boomer who doesn't talk to their kids enough. Thank God I'm one of those very incredibly lucky people that has a father who never had cable news, never wanted cable news, is fairly democratic socialist in his own views, and would rather read a book and watch something on Netflix than watch Sean Hannity and have all of his sense run out of his ears and into his shoes. Very lucky. I know not everybody has that, so it's just really hard to think that we aren't in some sort of world war, because literally every nation is poking and prodding and attacking one another in one way or another. I mean, China tries to break into our shit all the time. I mean, drop every American firewall, right? See what happens. How quickly are the Russians going to be? How quickly would the Chinese be there? Anybody. I mean, shit, our own allies would be. Why the fuck wouldn't you? We have safeguards against those things because somebody's always trying to attack you in one way or another. So, I don't know. World War III, I feel it's going to be very boring. It's going to involve a lot of nerds. The nerds are going to win it for us. So congratulations if you're a nerd, and I don't mean a Star Wars nerd. I mean a useful one, like somebody that does Security Plus or something along those lines. So going forward, who the fuck knows? That is how it's always been. It's the exact same thing with another thing that I wanted to discuss on here. So I know that there's anytime that war comes around, right? There's every leftist news organization, whether it is news, whether it's opinion, anything like that, loves to automatically throw up some stats about how the military recruits just poor people, right? People who are in destitution, who are in debt or whatever. And then you get people who are liberal, maybe center, maybe more to the right, who say, throw up some thing of, well, if you look here, it tells us that the median income of these families, the children that join, are solidly middle class. I'm planning on doing a lot of more writing going forward about propaganda, but this is one of the ones that is very tricky to me because it's very interesting to have a data set put into your hands and and everybody looks at it the same way, right? Everybody says, okay, look, if you see here, the most of the people who join the military come from middle class families, and that gets interpreted in 4 different ways by 5 different people. So here's a couple of things about. I know it started with the Heritage Foundation study, which Heritage Foundation is sketchy. But the information on these things are solid. The thing is that when you drill down into the big PDF that talks about it, when it discusses where it gets its information from, it goes by the median information based on the zip code that a soldier, that somebody who's in the military joins from. So if it came from me, I think I was in 63135 when I joined. That's North County, St. Louis. It's not, it's not rich, it's not poor. It's North County, St. Louis. It's solidly lower to middle class. But I mean, if you went by my zip code now, if you took my tax returns versus the tax returns of everybody else around me, you're going to have a lot of discrepancies back and forth. Now, I know that there's not a lot of information. It's not like you come in and they're like, hey, let's, sign on the dotted line and then hand us your parents' tax returns for the last 5 years. But it is like, when it comes to when you're doing it on a zip code basis like that, and look, soldiers come from everywhere. Soldiers come from rural bumfuck nowhere. They come from, the high rises of New York City, everywhere in between. So, but zip code is a really hard thing to judge because all you have is a median data set to go off of. And that is, look, that's the best that you got. I get that. It's also really not something that you can fully put a whole lot of trust into when it comes, all it is a median. It doesn't tell you. It just, like I said, my neighborhood is a very mixed income neighborhood. Which is how it is sometimes in the cities. You've got people who have been living here for decades and they own the house. So maybe they don't make as much money, but they don't have a mortgage payment. You got somebody who buys a house and moves in. The mortgage, the prices of places, gentrification, all kinds of different. There are all kinds of different factors that make the medians rise and fall in these neighborhoods. So it's a very tenuous thing that they're grasping onto. But the next thing is that it looks at it takes a look at the incomes, and then it says, well, based on these incomes, these people are middle class. And the question then becomes, well, what the fuck does middle class mean? What does a middle class family, how much is middle class? How much do you have to make to be middle class? You make $40,000 a year, right? Well, $40,000 a year in St. Louis City versus $40,000 a year in Texas County, Missouri, which is way down south in the Ozarks, versus $40,000 in New York City, means completely different things. All of these, like when you take a number and you say, well, look at this is what this says. But if you say you're coming from a family that makes $65,000 a year, great, that's wonderful. But how much debt does that household have? There's just so many other factors that lead into these things. And, honestly, when you look at it, yes, poverty, and maybe not poverty, maybe not, like you are poor and destitute, because guess what? Poor, destitute people don't join the military. They can't. They're not smart enough. They're not in shape enough. Their teeth are falling out of their heads because they don't have the care, the access, the education, the medical necessities that they need to be able to have the privilege, and I will say privilege, to join the military. Joining the military, it is, regardless of what the blowhard that tells you I would have joined the military, but tells you it is harder to get into the military than it is to get into college, because college will take anybody as long as you've got the grades. But also, you can walk into Forest Park Community College down here and start going to school and get yourself a degree, and all you need is a high school education. They don't you got a diploma or your GED. They don't give a fuck about anything else. They're just, hey, sure, whatever grades you have, come take some classes. So, when I graduated, like, and to be fair, my reasons for joining were varied. I did not have, I didn't have the crushing, like, medical insurance kind of thing. I didn't have medical problems. But also I couldn't afford college, and I smoked weed and didn't pay attention during high school, so I didn't get any scholarships. So, that what got drilled into my head is you do the grade school, you do the high school, then you do the college, and then you get the job, right? And then you do the steps. You do the suburban steps. And then, you start to realize you don't have to do the suburban steps. You can do all kinds of different things. There's all kinds of different options that you can go down. But, at the time, I don't know how much Mizzou cost, which is our local state school, over, not local, UMSL. UMSL's my local state school, but UMSL's fucking expensive. UMSL, a 4-year degree at UMSL, was University of Missouri St. Louis. It is a public university, is like $40,000 for a bachelor's degree. That's insane. Like, of course you're going to find some way. Maybe you join the Army. Maybe there are these options. And look, we tell people on the show all the time, you have options that are not joining the military. You always have those options that are not joining the military. But when we're talking about what is it that makes people, that makes 17, 18, 19-year-olds join the military, you get out of high school, you get out of your parents' house, and you find out that shit is difficult out there. You're not going to find a job that gives you the benefits, the health care, the life insurance, the boarding, and a solid paycheck and solid hours like you will the military. And that's fucked up. Like, everybody should be able to get what the military offers from their regular jobs, just coming out of the bat. Hell, if I'd have gone to college after high school, I would have completely wasted my time there anyway. I would have wasted time and money because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't go to college. I didn't get a degree until I think I was 31. Yeah, that sounds right, because I went to late 20s, maybe 29, 30, 31, somewhere in there is when I got my bachelor's degree. But the thing is that it's not one or the other. It's not, the leftist screaming at you that the military preys on the weak and the poor and the people who are desperate and need some way to be there. Like, yes-ish, but it's also not the military fills its ranks from all these wonderful and affluent middle-class families and they all join because they fucking love America. Again, there's a set of numbers that somebody is holding in their hand, and you've got two sides grappling at those numbers and using them to feed back what they want you to hear. And the thing is that, like everything, like any data set that you take, it's messy and it's complicated because people are not an Excel spreadsheet. People are not you can get a data set on humans, but like you're always going to be like, there's always going to be, as soon as you break down and you listen to stories, it's not going to be as simple and cut and dried as you think it is. So that's one of my, like, I didn't want to, there's just so much stuff that's being said in a lot of different directions. Not just about that. And like I said, I'm going to try to articulate that in some writing soon for the website. It's just like that weird propaganda that you think like, okay, I can see when the right side does it, right? I can see when the right wingers do it. I can see when the liberals do it. My side never does that, but your side does. I mean, you're not immune to propaganda, as Garfield tells us. There is, propaganda is when somebody tells you exactly what you want to hear and you're absolutely listening to it without any other questions. It's not easy to admit to it, but it does happen. I get taken in by it too. Like, I will 100% admit to you, I get taken in by it. Sometimes I know it is, and I'm just like, fuck it. Sometimes you dive headfirst into some propaganda. But a lot of times when you do that, you do it because there's some fucking nuggets in there of actual truth. And I'm not trying to say if you're smart enough. I'm just saying if you take the time because you're probably smart enough to understand and recognize propaganda. I mean, I'm sure you recognize it when it comes from your political enemies or the people you disagree with. You can say, well, that's not true. That's not true. You know, I can point all these different things here to tell you why those things aren't true. But like, you've got to be willing to do that on your side too. And hey, maybe your side is more truthful, but also you just have to be careful about. You have to be careful about rhetoric. I think that's what it really boils down to. Because if you don't get to call somebody else a liar, and then then we all find out that you've been lying too. Don't get caught doing the shit yourself. Take the time to really think about these things, to think about what you're doing before you really dive into it. Now, and look, maybe other people have dived into them further than me. And discuss these things. I haven't seen it yet, but I also don't read everything on the internet. So that is going to be something that I work on. But it is also something I wanted to talk about here on this live with you guys because it's an insidious thing, and it's a thing we all do. Like, propaganda is not some sort of invented by Goebbels. This isn't some like, well, then the Nazis made propaganda and then everything went bad. Propaganda's been around. Fuck, there's American propaganda. There's racist Dr. Seuss drawings from World War II, man. There's so much propaganda out there. And it's been happening from time immemorial. I'm sure that like with the cave drawings on those caves in France, like where it shows them like attacking the antelope and the buffalo or whatever it was that they were attacking, I bet they're painting themselves real fucking heroic. And there's probably like one guy like Ugnaught that got like, who slipped in some like buffalo shit and fell over and everybody laughed at him and he scared the herd away. Nobody fucking draws that on the cave wall. Guarantee you, though, that shit happens, though. So just keep an eye out for that. That should be coming in the next couple of weeks. And I would be remiss if I didn't say also, we have new stickers in. It's the garbage can, not a garbage cannot. These stickers are up on the site. But if you order anything else on the site, and it's $10 or more, you'll get a sticker for free. That goes till Monday. So hellofawaytodie.com/shop. We got those, or you can buy them $2 a piece yourself. You can get a whole stack of them if you like. So that's all I have for tonight. Thank you all. I don't really do the interaction part with this because I'm still trying to sort things out. So if you've been reacting to anything, I will probably come and find that a little bit later in the comments. But until then, we'll talk to you next week.